Hi, Billy the Artist here, back with some how to draw videos. The last couple were how to draw The Grinch, the new one that's coming out by Illumination Studios with Benedict Cumberbatch as The Grinch. That'll be quite good fun. We did a pencil portrait, we also did a quick colour one. And today we're going to go and do a quick colour one. We're doing The Incredibles, because Incredibles 2 is out. So we're going to start today with Mr. Incredible. That's who we're going to start to draw. And we are going to kick straight in and we're going to go very, very quickly. So, because I'm going to do some colour stuff. So again, we're going to use the shapes, but I'm dividing the page up in half first. So that's quite nice and faint that you can see there. And we are going to go quite quickly. That's not halfway. So if we, there we go. Let's whack that in as a kind of halfway line. Again, I just whap that in very quickly, but what you want is kind of halfway up the page. That's better. And just to break your page up, give you a visual place to help you put the shapes on. So again, this is Mr. Incredible, and we've got this dynamic foreshortening. He's coming out, he's punching out at the bad guys. So you can see from here, we've got this incredible diagonal line coming up to his right fist from his right foot right in the background. But what we need is, from here, his body, we've got a kind of big V. It's a bit of a weird shape, so you can do a complete box. So if you draw a box like that around the outside, and then you can put in his shoulder line and bring his chest down, and then his right hand here, if we just put a rectangle, and then another rectangle there, that's his left hand and his left arm going up to his chest. Here we want a nice simple ellipse. That's where the Incredibles eye logo will go, and we can just put the eye in very quickly, and we've got that shape going down inside the circle. So that's quite quick and simple. We've got that in. His head, so here we can see that the top of his head is going to be about there. The bottom of his head is about there. So if we draw that box there, you can see his jaw's going to come out, but we'll deal with that in a second. And then you've got what is the shape of his collar, which is just a bit of an ellipse. And you've got his arm from under his armpit, which is level with the bottom of this collar. So there is the top part of his arm where his bicep to his shoulder is, and then we need another box here, which is going to be his fist at the top, but we've got a rectangle for his thumb, and then we can do the hand coming underneath. We can build that up in a second, but we've got this angle coming down here, and his leg to his knee is a rectangle. We've got this one again, so we've got another rectangle for his left leg, and then we want another long rectangle, and then a small rectangle going straight down for his foot going to the floor. So there, very quickly, you can see using shapes we've placed out a lot of the position of Mr. Incredible. Now we can start adding some of the detail in. So here on the centre line we've got the side of his mask and his eyes going over, but we need it to come down, and his chin comes across, and his head there is vertical going up to that ear, and we've got a little shape there for his ear, and you come across and that ear is a little bit down, so we can pop that out, and then his head shape goes in a little dome over the top, and he's got that little tuft of hair, and then his nose is just a long rectangle, and then you've got a triangle at the bottom, and then you want his mask for his eyes which comes out, and that goes to the top of his ear there. And then we want the shapes for his eyes inside his mask. So we've got his little tuft of hair, which that top bit is a little bit like an egg. And then we want his eyes are little egg shapes inside the mask. And then you want the pupil, because he's looking up, he's looking where he's punching, where his hand is going. And we can delineate the side of his mask a bit better. And his nose comes down, and we've got that shadow casting down the side. And then we've got his grimace. Now again, if we bring out, you can see to the bottom of his eye where his mouth is, and we just draw a quick little rectangle on an angle, that will allow us to place the position of his mouth. And then his top lip is a bit like an M. If you start from this side, go over, there's a little dip in the middle, and so we can, that's where his lip comes down, and then his mouth goes right to the edge, and then his bottom lip comes round, and then he's clenching his teeth. Now his teeth are quite nice and ordered for us, so we've got one down the middle, and then you've got four, and then you've got the one on the side, that one on the side, there is one just to the back there, but that's quite quickly getting Mr. Incredible in. Then he's got this massive square jaw that comes down the bottom, and that goes up to join. Oh, there goes a pen. There we go. So we now need the collar coming round to the top of his shoulder. We also now need to build up his body shapes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw in the top of the eye. You've got the main eye. This is all just on the top of the centre line, and then the orange bit that comes out comes around and down, and then that will come and go to a point. That's like a C, just think like a capital C. Now if you think like a D coming from the top on this side, you can bring it out, and then you bring the D shape like a capital D down, and then you go thin at the top and thick at the bottom. And then his chest muscles come around, and that goes up to his left shoulder. And his left shoulder, we want to go over there. Just think like as if you were drawing a bird, you've got that shape of his shoulder coming round. Now again, this here, we've got this rectangle shape that we built for this arm. We've now got to bring his hand in and his glove, so we can draw another box for his fist, and there's his thumb, and there's his forefinger going up to his knuckles, and then we want a nice curve coming right the way up to this top, which is where his glove is. And then we can curve coming underneath here. You can see how it joins. That's his bicep, and that's his forearm, and then you want the top of his arm, and that's starting to flesh out quite quickly Mr. Incredible. Now we'll come up here and we'll go to the top of this where his knuckle is, right at the top inside this box. And if we start with his thumb, so we've put our marker points, if we start with his thumb, that's a nice curve coming around, and that goes on there, and then we want inside the box just a diagonal line going up to that top knuckle. The second finger, his middle finger, is going up there, and then you want the third finger, and then that knuckle will go over the top, and then you want the fourth finger. You can see they are all just underneath, like the line with his eyes. And then you want the side of his hand coming down, and then you've got this curve coming down inside the square that we built to his thumb. And that's the shape of his glove going off into the distance. Now we can bring his arm down to join. I keep knocking the pens off. So there is the top of his arm going to the back of his chest. And now his chest comes down. What we need is underneath here, so you've got the bottom of his chest muscles, this will be his tummy, coming down here, and you can come over from his glove. You've got the point here inside this V that you drew for the top of these pants that are on the outside of, like all good superheroes, and then you can join his chest up to there, to the top of his pants on his waistline, and then the side here. Oh, I keep knocking my pens off. Oh! And so now we've got his leg, we need to build this shape, and again you've got this little rectangle, and you can see his leg, his bottom of his knee is here, so you can draw the point in, and again you can just draw this nice curvy line inside the rectangle that you drew at the beginning. And if you check out in the cards and the descriptions how to draw anything using these shapes, links in the cards and the description, this will help you incredibly, pun intended, with your drawing, because you can see how quickly you can get the shapes down that will put your image on your paper. Now behind his knee here coming down, you've just got his toe from his left foot that's going into the distance. Now his right thigh, we've got the bottom part of his pants going down of his super suit, and his right thigh comes in, and he's greatly exaggerated because he's a cartoon superhero. And you've got here this you've got a cone coming down now inside this rectangle down to this little thin ankle and his calf muscle for his boots. And then in this little rectangle that you drew here, we've got a little point coming out, and you've got a kind of point. So if you think of a V at the bottom, there you've just drawn that V, and then you can kick that back in and go inside, and that's where his toes are, the width of your foot. And there's his boot. Now I am going to quickly go over this with a felt tip pen, and then we're going to try and colour it in very, very quickly. So all of the hard work was done with the pencil line. I'm drawing around his mask, and then there's the top of his nose, and then you've got again his mask. You can put his eyebrows in on the mask if you want, and then you can draw around the pencil line. And then we've got his right eye. And then his mask coming down over the top of his cheek. And then we've got the shape of his nose going to that little triangle. And then his mouth. And if we just draw in the lines for his teeth, following the lines that we put down, then we can put in the shade, the shadow right in that corner. Now again, we've got this little tuft of hair that comes down, and then his hair that comes down the side of his head, a little bit of sideburn over his ear, and then hair to the side, and then we want the side of his forehead coming down, and then the side of his nose, and going for his big chin right the way for his big superhero chin. Again, his ear, remember, it's just like a D shape, so you can draw the outside and then you can put the line in for his ear, and then you've just got a little bit showing on this side. We just tighten that up a little, and his collar, and we can draw that around. Then we want his shoulder going down to his arm, going to his glove, and then his thumb. Again, you've got the little shape, and then his fingers going around his knuckles over to the back of his hand, and then that nice curve going up for that glove. Now we do his thumb, and then his fingers that are coming out over to the top of his knuckle, second finger, third finger, fourth finger. And when you're drawing these lines in, remember, use your arm. Don't, use the fullness of your arm to get your big lines down. Again, before I go down to the bottom of his body, I'm going to put a black line around the eye. Now there is a bit of white left in the centre of the eye. Remember, that's a D. You've just done a C on the other side. That'll be for the orange, just to make that stand out. And then come down the side of his body, over the top of his belt, or his waistband on his superhero pants, and that's his leg in. Now we need, that's his back foot, then you've actually got his pants going down there, his thigh, nice simple curve for his right boot down to the floor. Remember the V for the bottom of the toes. That's getting the outline in rather quick. Now I'm just going to rub out a lot of the pencil lines quickly. Remember, those construction lines work for you really, really easily. But the pencil can obscure your colouring. Now I'm going to use a bit of a mixture of felt tips and pencil crayons. And so we're going to whack this in quite quickly. So if we start with the eye, there's the yellow, and you can see, well, there's a little bit of yellow, but you can see that the yellow has picked up some of the pencil or the pen, which is quite strange, but that's what happens with the lighter colours. But don't let that put you off. You can use pencil crayons or better felt tips if you've got a set. Like some of the markers you can get now are fantastic, but these are just felt tips that you can get from somewhere like Poundland or a thrift store or a supermarket. So there's the orange and the yellow in quite quickly. Now if we whack in, hang on, pens are going everywhere again. Oh, there we go. If we whack in quite quickly a bit of the lighter red, we can fill in Mr. Incredible. And you just need to fill in the space as quickly as you can. Remember, if you squint, that can help a little bit when you're filling in big areas. And you can get felt tips which have got really big nibs. In fact, have I got one? Might use that in a second. But we're just colouring this in as quick as we can. And filling the shape in. And we're going to use another red over the top. So if I fill in the top of that leg, this is the one that's in the foreground, so we need the lighter colour on the top, and we need that lighter bit down the edge of his leg. We've got a bit of a light pinky purple line kind of coming in down here, down this side. Now if we see the line of his chest down here, coming to the top, and then underneath his bicep, this is where the kind of shadows are. So I'm just delineating some of his muscles, and you can have a big shadow coming down there. His tummy is going to be a darker red. You can see how we're filling that in quite quickly. And the same with his right leg, we just fill that in very quickly. We can then get a black marker and we can fill in his underpants. In fact, they're overpants really, aren't they? They're trunks. And then we can fill in the big areas. He's got highlights, so if you go to that line and just draw in, but then leave the highlight over the finger, and then you go right up to the next line, and then you do the same thing, leave the highlight and then go right up to the next finger, and then you do the same with the thumb. Don't go right to the edge, just leave some kind of highlight, and you've got all this shape underneath. Do his little finger that comes right to the edge, and then you can fill all of that area in. Nice and black. Then you've got the band around his neckline. If we do the top of his knuckles as well, then we can fill in his mask. Don't fill it all in because we're going to use a little bit of colour. So you've got a V of line of dark going down there, and then the dark almost to the edge. Where his hands are, you've got a little triangle of dark, and then underneath his hand, and then the back of his boot, you can do that one, just fill that in completely. Again, you've got a solid line going down, and then the edge of his boot. We can fill that in a second. And we can fill in his Incredibles logo. You can see he's starting to fill in quite quickly. Now, on his gloves, we have some blue. So, oh, that's a bit of a sharp blue. What you can do is actually have a piece of paper, and then you can try out the colours to see what they're like when you actually get to them. But I'm going to do a mix of pencil crayon with the felt tips. And so you get that blue highlight going on there, and then you can fill that in a little bit. And you got a little blue on the thumb, and then down here you want this blue coming down the side of his thumb. Now, using a black pencil crayon, you can fill in the same way as you do with a pencil. You can press on and get darker or lighter, and you can slightly fade it out. But this is the bonus of using a mixture of pencil crayons and felt tip pens. You can increase your colour range because felt tip pens, as you see, are solid and just put the colour in completely. Now, there, we've built that up. Now we're getting down onto the boot. We want a bit of that blue light shine on his boots. Now, coming up here, you can slightly fade that in. To the blue. And then his fingers, you can add some texture. You can see how now the glove is getting a little bit more form and a little bit more three-dimensionality. And there we filled in that side and the shadow down that side, and then go into the highlight on that finger, and we can just darken down that little bit of blue. And you see how the fist is just coming out. Now, I'm lightening that up, It's got a little bit of a kind of greeny tinge in his gloves, so I've just picked up a little green pencil crayon, and you can add that over the black. And then down on these highlights on this side, and we need to feather in some black there, and smooth that off, then add the green over the top. And you just get a little bit more control by using the pencil crayons to give you that little bit of extra detail. So we can fill in Mr. Incredible's mask. Then we can get some nicer browns, put the highlights of his hairs in, his hair, and then you've got this kind of more nutty, chestnutty brown underneath. Now we need to build up his flesh colours. So again, I've got this pinky flesh colour, and I'm just gently filling in all of the space, and then you can add darker by pressing on harder for the shadow areas. So all over his big chin, and then we've got it coming down to his neck. Now I'm going to press on harder for inside his ears, and you got the creases on his head, and then the shape of the side of his head coming across the top. So I'm filling in the colour down on the right hand side, and you've got a shadow coming down from his nose, and then you've got his cheek line going down to his jaw. Again, it's much pinker in places, but you can use the colours and other colours to accentuate the shadows, which we'll do in a minute. Just put a little bit of a shadow down underneath his bottom lip. Now that's very flashy. I'm now going to use this much pinker tone to just add, because he's exerting himself by throwing this punch at the bad guy, so his blood is flushed, so you can really pink up everything. Down to the bottom of his jaw and the top of his shirt. So now what I'm going to do is just going to fill in a bit of the red with a pencil crayon as well. Just so that you're adding texture and colour and vibrancy. You can see there, that's filling in Mr. Incredible quite nicely. Now, what we need is a bit of a purple. So this shadow down off his nose, I'm just using this purple, and then down the side of his cheek, and this here is quite dark. So I'm putting the purple down first, and then we want blue for his eyes. So this eye is completely in the shade, and this one's a little bit. Oh, I'm just going to darken that eye down completely. We need under his nose, and then going up to his hairline. Now under his chin, I want that blue again. That purple, sorry. And then we're going to use a bit of a brown, a chestnutty brown colour. Again, just use it like you would a pencil when you're doing the pencil drawings that I've done. And this will increase your shadows a bit. But you're mixing the colours over one another using the pink and the purple, and the colours all mixed together to give you much better representation with that shadow that's coming down. Again, I'm just going to bring that down to his chin. And that shadow underneath is much darker. And then we can bring his jawline round. We can now increase the pink again. Just to flesh him up a bit. Just by layering everything, you're getting to see a much wider tonal range. So now I'm going back with the purple. Just to increase that. And then you can run the flesh colour right over it. To build it up even more. And that's how you can use multiple different colours to actually build up your colour tone. Now what we want is this shadow going down, and I would say we want quite a nice, I mean, it is kind of black. Oop. Oh, I'm throwing the pencil everywhere. It's quite a deep red, but I'm using this blue first. It's a reddy black. So again, this is where you can mix the colours. To increase, and we want, it's got this kind of black shadow coming down here. And again, right underneath his arm. And we missed a bit of red out. So we can just ping that on. But the blue will just help to bring out some of the colours. When the red makes the red work better when we put the black pencil crayon over. Again, I'm working right the way over. With the blue in the shape where all the shading is. And so this is the effect of the light. You can see now he's becoming much more three-dimensional. Because the blue and the shadow is giving him that shape and delineation that we want. So now I'm running the red back over the top again. And now if we do the side of his thigh, build the top of that thigh up, and his tummy muscles. Now if we go back and get the black pencil crayon, and we then put that over the top of the blue and the red that we've just cross-hatched together, that'll make his shadow look so much better, because his shadow's actually got colour in. And that's one of the things that I do with my oil paintings. I always put colour into the black when I mix it. So if I want it to be warm, I'll mix some red in. If I want it to be cold, I'll mix some blue or some green. And then we want the deep shadow going down. And we want the shadow around his thigh. The same thing coming down there, and that's Mr. Incredible looking pretty good. Now this has been a lot longer than I normally do because I try and get it under 25 minutes, but by doing the colour you're actually seeing what I do with the pencil only videos with tone, but by using colours, felt tips and pencil crayons, you get to produce a really nice drawing. So here I'm using a brown to darken down his belt, which is in the shadow, but just to cool it off as well, I'll just run over a little bit of blue. That gives it a little bit of consistency, and then just building up the shadows. Now we really need to darken this down, coming up to his right glove underneath his arm. And we can lighten up a little bit and pull that off. But there you have a very dynamic Mr. Incredible in colour. I'm going to darken underneath his chin. Now, finally, we need just to put a little bit of blue. And his teeth are kind of ivory colour. And that brings in, and again, if you've got a white pencil crayon, you can add some highlight lines on the gloves. And then on the edge of his thumb. And then coming down underneath there. Now that is quite a good full drawing of Mr. Incredible. I hope you've enjoyed that. I certainly have. And I know it's been a long one, but just thought I'd try something a little bit different with Mr. Incredible and using felt tips and coloured pencils. Anyway, enjoy that. There will be more to come, different characters out of The Incredibles. Take care, and I'll see you next time. Do like and subscribe for more how to draw videos and my painting videos. Ta-da.